Hi, welcome to the Durian Heat, where we discuss critical issues from Southeast Asia. My name is Grace Cho. On March 8th, it was the International Women's Day. Many countries celebrated this day with a remembrance of women's empowerment and achievement. Should Hillary Clinton become the next president of the United States, her victory would be historic. However, we don't need a female president to prove that women are carving out roles at the highest levels of politics and business. Still,
female entrepreneurs have a long way to go. The hurdles they face vary from place to place. Compared to Silicon Valley, London entrepreneurs are 3 times more likely to be women. In Israel, it's 3.5 times. But a major issue across the board is getting funding for their ventures. We'll discuss more about this on female entrepreneurs, on challenges, success stories, and inspiration at the Durian Heat.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
We are going to be in the hot seat.
That's right, all 3 of us today.
You know why?
Why?
Because we are going to talk about women and business.
Oh my gosh, she got it,
And
Gowri.
this is actually one of Grace's favorite topic because
Yeah.
she's always talking about entrepreneurship and what are the opportunities available for women in this country.
Oh, really, have I?
You didn't realize it.
Well,
I was actually gonna ask you to explain, but then since you said really.
Well, I believe when it comes to entrepreneurship in any nations, right, we still have this sort of stereotyping mindset that it's kind of male business world when it comes to entrepreneurs, and also all those mindsets and also the ideas about when it comes to business is still pretty much male dominated. But then with all those, I would say, innovations in the business, more women, females are coming up with their own ideas, not only from all those typical industries such as fashion, music, or art, but also from the perhaps IT. Different, I wouldn't say different, it's something, it was like less a female dominated industry, but now we'll see more changes and improvement in terms of having more opportunities for women.
Funny because when we talk about women in entrepreneurship, is in reality it's not something new. It's something that is actually a culture in certain parts of Malaysia. For example, I think in Kelantan, women in business or businesswoman selling, small scale business like goreng pisang, or you sell like
Even
fabric,
handicrafts. Yeah.
This is a woman's oriented businesses, but it's seldom being highlighted. It's not as much as male oriented businesses. So I guess trying to refocus what woman entrepreneurship is all about. It's very, very good.
Another interesting part is, like Grace mentioned earlier, people always have this stereotype that it's a male dominated thing, but if you really look at what entrepreneurship really is, it always starts with an idea. And pretty much anybody can have an idea.
All small business sectors, they were not highlighted so far. That's why when we think of the business, we think of the big scales, big companies. That's when we sort of think straight, oh, it's a male-dominated industry. However, if we actually look it into a further and deeper, we see a lot of women have been contributing when it comes to business.
How are we starting? Are we gonna talk about our...
So I would love to ask you two, Arlene and Gowri, what is your perspectives when it comes to, when you hear the word women entrepreneurship?
I used to feel that business is a male-dominated world, but the more I think about it, business can be in any form and in any way, but I guess the access to capital, the access to opportunities usually is quite limited to women. So let's say nasi lemak stall. I love
Your
giving
favorite example.
That is my favorite example. Let's say a makcik selling nasi lemak on the roadside. She has a great idea, a great recipe, maybe a good pool of customer within her area. But to be a really successful entrepreneur, it's not just to cater towards the existing customer, because you will always have competitor and you need to reinvent yourself. That's where a woman have, I think, a bit of limited compared to men, because where do you get access to capital? How can you get the opportunity to expand? Opportunity in terms of time, in terms of money, in terms of networks. These are very limited for women. usually women would play the role as caretaker in the family, and business usually would be a side thing just to make enough cash to support the family. So to say female in businesses, how can we reinvent them, is to completely change the role of women in society. This is how I think.
I think of women entrepreneurship. Honestly, I think of Victoria Beckham right away.
Why?
Because she's one woman who she started out like just in a girl band, but she actually rose to such prominence. She worked really hard. She introduced her own fashion line, and she became a worldwide icon for most people. And she was kind of one of the earliest person to revolutionize that whole thinking in an international scale, maybe.
I see. I thought her biggest achievement was becoming a wag.
Becoming a what?
Wag.
A wag.
Wife and girlfriends of footballers.
Whoa.
She was the one who actually
That's the
reinvented.
thing. A lot of people are actually
Yeah.
saying it the other way around, that Beckham is still relevant today because of his wife, because she came up with all these efforts and her clothing line, her fragrance line, and because of that, Beckham started doing the same thing. He has his underwear, he has his own fragrance. So he actually got most of his inspiration from her as well.
I see. How about the Oprah Winfrey? I think she's a very good role model when it comes to women entrepreneurship.
Especially women of colors. Oprah came from a very disadvantaged background. She was a colored woman, as in she's not from the privileged white community. So in a sense, for her to break that mold, that glass ceiling, is really, really an achievement for a black woman. But in reality, I mean, if you look at the bigger picture, you may have like one or two women of color being successful as entrepreneurs. The reality is women are way behind the economic scale, not just in entrepreneurship, but in almost every form of economic activities. That's the sad truth. So how can we really expand and empower women to actually see beyond? Just because they are female in gender doesn't mean that they should be at the bottom rung of the economic food chain.
Well, then doesn't mean the women entrepreneurs, they need to think like, they need to, act like men. Because to be honest, when it comes to business, you need a lot of logical thinking and a critical mindset, and to be able to think outside the box. That also requires a bit of a creativity mind. But women, we are very sort of well known with the quotation, for being very emotional, and then the
Do you agree with
the
that?
soft skill. That's what I'm asking, whether we need to think like men to be able to enter the business world and then sort of start our own business.
Okay, let's break down this stereotype of perception. What is exactly thinking like man? I mean, if you have a definition for that particular gender stereotype.
Straightforward, simple mindset, being logical. Yeah, they have this, I would say, skill to separate their emotions from the work. So they don't actually relate the emotions to their work.
Do you agree with that, Gowri?
I actually think thinking like a woman will be more helpful for businesses, because
How
women
is it
tend
like
to
to
be,
think like a woman?
Yeah, women tend to have a stronger gut feeling whether something is going to work out or not. They also are known to be the more reasonable one, the more rational thinking one, because men, although they are straightforward, they're simple, they have this reputation for jumping in headfirst into something without really calculating after effects. But when it comes to women, they are actually more. They are actually.
Well, you have a point, Gowri, there, where as much as I asked the question whether women need to think like men, but then though trying to act like men doesn't guarantee the success for the female entrepreneur. And then we have a lot of good feminine qualities that we can actually highlight when it comes to business. And then by nature, women are more emotional and nurturing, which can also sometimes be a hurdle in the handling business. However, turn the way other way around to make use of our feminine qualities.
Once you learn to use it to your advantage.
But I would want to completely change the whole discussion when it comes to the stereotype of men and women, because I feel that stereotype comes from a certain kind of social construct where we are being born into that particular idea of this is how men think, this is how women think. To me, human beings are emotional beings, regardless the degree of being emotional, how bad it is. It's not determined by your sex organ or your gender. It is determined by your individual self. If you are being brought by in an environment or your genetics makeup have you to be more emotional than the usual person, that means you are an emotional person regardless of your gender. To me, the reality is a good businesswoman or a good businessman, another example, has nothing to do with emotion at all, or has everything to do with emotion. But the reality is, the bigger picture is, it's all about taking advantage of business access, trying to be able to form really forward-looking ideas and be able to market the ideas, and having a good network of partners and people to convince that your idea is great. And these are processes that doesn't happen just in one go. You have to dare to fail, dare to reinvent yourself, and dare to admit that you were wrong, and you want and change the course of your business and do something great. And I think both men and women are capable of doing that. Breaking the stereotype of what men and women think is really, really crucial. I believe you need both male and female sort of qualities. Yeah, you're right, qualities. You need to be emotional at times, you need to be logical at times, but at the same time you also need other form of skills, thinking skills that not necessarily involve emotion or you would involve emotion. I mean, I give example. It's hard for you to be creative and logical at the same time. When you are creative, usually your logical mind will take a backseat. That's where you become very emo. That's why great artists are very emotional
and very sensitive.
But that's where great ideas comes from. But at the same time, when you have a business mindset, you need to be very logical. You need to think about logistics. You need to think about how your product would appeal to people, and these are very logical sort of operation. You can't be emotional. So I think you need both skills, because you cannot sell a horrible product. You cannot be logical and create a really great idea. You have to have emotional to create great ideas. But at the same time, you cannot be emotional and ensure that your business will work well. You have to be logical to ensure that your business is work well, because business activities are very logical activities.
And also, just to add on top of that, is it's also based on the research from Babson College in 2012 Global Entrepreneur Monitor. They actually said the woman has a higher fear of failure when it comes to business.
It's social construct, I think. You're brought up to think that, this is how a woman should be. Don't ever mess up. Don't ever get pregnant out of wedlock. Don't ever do this. Even when you are young, probably, if you have brothers, your brothers will given more opportunity to make mistake, to even have the freedom to go out at night and all that. But for women, you can't do this, you can't do that. So for us being a woman, we constantly questioning ourselves, should I do this? Should I not do this? Would it be something wrong for me to do it? You keep on holding yourself back because you're scared. If you let yourself go out just like that, you'll make a mistake that you will regret. Should that be a reality for every kind of decision making for women?
Well, there should not be that reality, but then again, the fact is people are biased when it comes to women, in the sense that as much as we want to break it, they still are biased towards women and think that they are less capable of making decisions, of making something happen. But of course, a lot of women have come up from that, has risen above and proven these people wrong. And we do have a lot of successful female entrepreneurs, not only in Malaysia, even all over the world. So the good thing is that reality is actually changing, and the course of gender equality is actually getting closer.
Personally, do you think you are scared of making mistake because of probably your family background?
I don't think so. I think it depends on each person, like you mentioned. maybe it's the way they brought up, maybe it's the people around them that constantly discourage them, and things like that can influence their decision making skills as well.
Like being a Korean woman, do you feel that you need to withhold yourself whenever you make decision because you're scared you might embarrass yourself or make a mistake, or your mother or father might not be happy about it?
Actually, to be honest, that affects my thinking when it comes to start something, because of my background. Korea is actually very based on the conservatism that a female has to be this way, male has to be this way. Although there are changes coming along the way
quite slow,
nowadays,
right?
yeah. But then we see a lot of women entrepreneurs in Korea, but yet it is true, I can't just totally ignore the research which says that the woman has a higher fear of a failure, which I totally agree, because we tend to think a bit more than the men thinks, and then that there comes with a lot of fear and the concerns, and we tend to take a few more steps backwards to make sure that everything goes perfectly.
I want to ask you guys, do you ever encounter guys actually telling you think too much? Do you
Yes,
ever
of
face?
course.
Yes, of course.
So that's sort of comes with our worry and a concern over just before we start something. So I think in that sense, I think the researchers, what they've done is correct. It comes a matter of how we actually overcome all those hurdles, the thinking.
But if you ask evolutionary biologists, they would have an explanation why women think too much. I mean, for women, we are actually pretty risky. I mean, we can easily get pregnant. We can easily, get ourselves hurt biologically. So, and we are also biologically less strong than men. So, for us to make a wrong decision, it will have a bigger risk than men making the wrong decision. I guess that explains maybe why some women or women in general might think too much, if I want to quote unquote, compared to men. But would it hamper women in business or not? I think the society or the world is changing in a way that we might not be as much being exposed to as much risk as our ancestor would face. We might not need to worry that much compared to what our ancestor, our mother and our grandmother faced at that time.
And definitely the business world is evolving and it is changing slowly. And then we can talk about a lot of things when it comes to women entrepreneurship, because in terms of job opportunities, the payment, and also the nation-wise, whether the nation is affected by religion or even the society structure. And also we can talk about the Malaysian base and also and further perhaps the ASEAN perspectives as well.
That's the end of our first segment of the Durian Heat. Stay tuned with us.
You're now listening to DurianASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing.